I have a lot of past life memories. I have past life memories of living on other planets. I also have past life memories, even being in heaven. Everyone on this planet has divine power because originally they were a part of God consciousness. They've just forgot that. Well, we're the captains of the ship and we are just letting the ship fall apart. We're not taking care of it. We're not giving it commands of what to do. God is the equal energies of the divine feminine and divine masculine together. And God is not an old man sitting in heaven. We are all God. We are all Christ. There is no death. We are eternal beings that have lifetimes after lifetimes. And we've had many before, and will never ever not be. Because we always will be. Because we're God and God is eternal.
Our potential, it's exponential.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another show. Today I have a super special guest for you. Sarah, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me on, Jack. And I know we're going to have an amazing podcast. And we've spoken about a lot of different subjects behind the scenes, such as spirituality, detox, and health and wellness. So I'm excited to be speaking about this on your podcast.
Yeah, likewise. And honestly, I'm super honored to have you, Sarah. You've done so many amazing things. Like, people don't maybe know you have a huge following that, that follows your work. And I guess, what would you say to the audience? Like, give a little brief background about what you do. If someone's like, hey, Sarah, what do you do?
As much as I don't like labels, I defined the label for me as multidimensionality work. So multidimensionality work means, detoxing, taking care of your physical body, wellness, diet, also energy work, being in tune with your emotions, being in tune with your whole system, your aura, your chakra system. We are multidimensional beings. So that's the work that I do. I work with multidimensionality.
Amazing. As a multidimensional coach, almost.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Amazing. And so when did you get into all this stuff?
I have a lot of past life memories. I have past life memories of living on other planets. I also have past life memories of even being in heaven and seeing that there were a lot of souls on this planet that were caught in a reincarnation cycle due to unprocessed karma that were actually lost down here. So I embarked on this journey with this divine sort of divine backing to come to this planet and tell people that they are much more than these physical bodies, that they are divine beings in these physical bodies.
Wow. So you're saying it's kind of like we're reincarnated until we're kind of, we release all this karmic energy that we come back with every life?
So people on this planet, many of them have been reincarnating for thousands of years rather than ascending. And as they reincarnate over and over again, they've got lost. They've lost the knowledge of who they are.
Wow. So So you're telling
me
they
become imprisoned.
Right. Yeah. So you're telling me you remember some of these past lives, and
very, very clearly.
Even in heaven.
Yes.
Wow.
That before even the souls on this planet that are in bodies, that originally everything was energy and everything being God, that energy decided to experience. So then it turned into such things as angels. It started to form into these energetic manifestations, such as angels and different beings. Those different beings then went on to create different bodies and go into those bodies for a 3D experience until we got to this creation now, where these very ancient souls, they, got into human bodies and they forgot who they are.
We just forgot who we are.
Yes.
Which is from that source energy.
From the realm of spirits. And then eventually there were levels of, going into various creations of that, ancient creations that you hear about, whether it's Atlantis or other civilizations that were highly advanced. And each civilization that went down, you might say, Well, the souls forgot more and more their point of origin and the knowledge of who they are, until we have today that people don't even know why they're here when they're born, what they're doing. They don't know that they're powerful beings in this physical body.
So you're telling me that's part of like your mission here, to come back here and help save souls and ascend?
So I'm not the only one, but there was a group that was sent down to bring that knowledge back to humanity, not because we're above anyone, but just to remember, to bring that remembrance to them so that they could save themselves and their planet, because the planet, it's lost so much energy, and it's also bombarded with dense energies that are pulling it down, such as pollution, which is simply a dense energy, pollution in the ocean, pollution in the skies, pollution in our air. We have the power to transmute dense energies into light energy. When humanity as a collective starts to join together and visualize channeling light into themselves, that's going to bring up their frequency. They're going to have more of a charge of energy within their physical bodies. And the more charge of energy you have, the more you remember who you are. Many people are born without very much energy. So a lot of children out there are born sick. A lot of people have health issues because of lack of energy. So when you bring up the energy, not only does it heal your body and it heals all sorts of issues, it also elevates you into a state of ascension.
Ascension, you're saying?
Right. And when you ascend, then you remember who you are, truly are. So everyone on this planet has divine power, because originally they were a part of God consciousness. They've just forgot that. So when they start to visualize channeling light into themselves, into their oceans, into their entire planet, that's going to start healing the planet, transmuting that dense energy of pollution, transmuting all the dense energy of trauma and pain on this planet, and that will save them and their planet.
Save them with visualization of the light. Totally.
Because in ancient times, that's what we did. Those are the when you look at the pyramids, that's what we did. We would go in there and we would visualize pulling light from the cosmos down into the pyramid, and then that would be sent into the middle of the planet to keep the frequency of the planet up. Wow. Now there's a lack of light in the planet, so it's falling apart. That's why we have tornadoes, here in Florida now. We have the ocean washing up, the planet's falling apart because of the lack of energy.
Wow. So this is deep. So you're saying there's not enough like people meditating and visualizing and bringing in that light source energy?
Well, we're the captains of the ship. Mm-hmm. And we are just letting the ship fall apart. We're not taking care of it. We're not giving it commands of what to do. Wow. And that's why we are here at this point.
Yeah.
Because
so
if you go back to the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
You go back to the Garden of Eden, we were steers over the garden. We were supposed to make sure everything was functioning well. But we're failing to do so. So
you believe, because we've talked about this, you believe we felt like man was fallen back then, and then not like we're in the rapture right now for real? You think so?
Yes, we are in the rapture, and the fall of man was a fall of in frequency. So when you lose energy, you start your DNA. There is no such thing as junk DNA. Scientists say we have junk DNA. There is no such thing as that. DNA shuts off even parts of your brain, parts of your body when you don't have enough energy. And so the fall of frequency is when humanity, they lost energy. When they lost the energy, they went down. When you go down, you go into a state of unconsciousness, into a state of sleep. Thus the allegory of Plato's Plato's cave, where you see that there's this group of people and they're living in this cave and they don't know that there's the sunlight out there. And then one eventually he wanders off and he finds that there's a whole other world out there. Humanity's living in darkness right now. They're living in darkness.
In the cave.
They're in the cave. They're also living in a state of lack of wisdom of how the soul and how energy and the realms and all of creation works and functions. Wow.
So let's talk. Exactly. So how do people let that more into their life? Because that's deep. We've lost all that wisdom on how this realm really works, right? like the ether and energy and all that stuff. How can people
We
like wrap
have.
their heads around that? Yeah, right? Because we talked about it. Energy lives in minerals, like you said, right? In like in the oceans and the plants, and it all matters a lot. Can you talk about that?
We've got to this point because of society teaching us to be service to self, to have instant gratification, to focus on me, myself, and I.
myself, and that's not the
And not even in a positive way of empowering ourselves or of, going within and meditating and praying or connecting to our emotions, our being. It's more of a very shallow me, myself, and I.
isn't it? So much in our society.
It's a disconnect. And so many people out there are starving for love and connection, but they're not even connected within themselves. And you cannot manifest something that you don't have within yourself on the outside. So there's all sorts of issues going on right now, on this planet. And but the good thing is that we have these divine solutions, because as much as we think that God doesn't exist and God's left us to hurt and God's left our planet,
it's all doomed. It's ruined. Right.
that's not true.
That's not true.
In fact, God,
Okay.
which is an energy that flows, that's omnipresent and eternal, God invites us back to it, but God would never, ever force such.
I feel the same, and that might trigger a
We're
lot of
the
people.
ones-
I think we have a traumatized relationship with God and all this stuff, and how we're raised, right?
Well, yes, but God's been taught wrong to humanity. It's in a wrong manner to humanity. God is such a beautiful energy that, I would say this, I'm quite ancient. This isn't my first life, and to have walked this path, it's been grace of that force, a flow of energy, God's source energy. And God is not what people define it to be.
So,
And we
what
are the
would God
ones.
be?
We are the ones who
If you had to
have cut
define it.
ourselves off from God.
Right.
We are the ones who have believed in false gods, in religions, and we basically have disconnected from the real God, which is always living in here, and even
It's always with us.
always with us. And we're always looking outside everywhere when we just need to sit still and feel and listen. And that's when we'll connect to God.
Everyone's seeking on everywhere else.
Everywhere else except in the stillness of within. Because a lot of people can't sit with themselves, because if they sat with themselves, they'd have to feel that shame. They'd have to feel that pain.
Yeah.
They'd have to feel that
That's why they.
unwellness within them. But those things, you have to feel them to heal them.
Yeah. Sarah, that it's so interesting. People go on those like 2-week-long retreats where you're just silent and sitting with yourself. It's like the hardest thing for people to do. It's so funny, and it's just like being. We avoid that so much.
Being.
So interesting.
I have every single day, it doesn't matter what I'm doing or how much work I have to do or errands I need to run or sessions I have to do. I take that time, anytime I have, to sit in that stillness. So every day I sit with God. And it's such a beautiful thing. I don't know how people on this planet walk around. Well, I look at where it's got them, being disconnected from God. Because in my experience, it's like I'm always interacting with God on such a level that it guides me, It guides me through everything. Years ago, it guided me through, this body nearly dying when no doctor could help me. It's guided me through a lot of evil
Yeah.
that one would encounter in life. And people always look at me and they're like, wow, you are so lucky.
I've heard
They're
that.
like, you're so lucky, They're like, wow,
But you are.
You say you want something and it manifests and you get all these opportunities. And look, I'm like, well,
What would
God
you say to
loves
that
me.
person?
God gives me everything I possibly could want, you know? And God, that's the thing. So
Right.
when we truly
It's
connect
true.
to God, God gives us all these blessings. God helps us heal. God gives us joy.
Yeah.
I'm always
If you
so
pay
joyous.
attention, totally. If you're joyous and listen, right, and pay attention on the path, He shows up for
I
sure.
say he, she, because
Yes,
God
thank
is
you.
God is the balance between the masculine and feminine energies, and we need to understand that.
Beautiful. Talk about that, because I think right now,
Because
Sarah,
there is,
yeah,
Yeah.
guys and girls are going at it and like confused on this. We need each other. The yin yang,
we all
baby.
need each other. Everybody needs each other on this planet. That's the only way that their planet is going to survive.
Big time.
Literally. And to open up
I
with,
agree.
it's easy to constantly point fingers at another, and that will get you nowhere. And I know a couple of billionaires, elderly people who just, don't talk to their own families. They're just pointing their fingers. Well, they did this. Well, I'm not leaving them my fortune. Like, it's like, okay, listen.
So immature, yeah.
It's like I see a lot of older people too, they get to a point of life where I don't want to speak to my daughter or my son or this or that. Well, you know what? If you keep pointing fingers, you're going to disconnect yourself from everyone. And it doesn't matter whether you're rich or you're not, you're going to wind up an old sour person who wants love, but you're not going to get it because you cannot forgive and you cannot stop pointing fingers. So everyone needs to start getting along. We need to start opening up to each other with love, compassion, and communication rather than you did this or you did that. And
So
I also do believe in accountability for people who are doing terrible things out there. There needs to be accountability.
Yes.
That's another thing.
1000%.
I'm very 1000%, because if I was doing something that was bad towards myself and hurtful towards myself and another, I would welcome somebody saying, you know what, that's an act of love, because love has many different aspects, including tough love. Tough love is very important. I would be thankful and grateful for somebody saying, listen, by doing this, you're hurting yourself, and you need to reflect on that, and you need to change. Accountability.
Yeah, and listening to that, yeah.
So go back to your
This is
rapture.
deep. Yeah, exactly. And by the way, I just cut you off too. You were saying something about, the divine feminine and masculine both being connected to the God.
I think that God is the equal energies of the divine feminine and divine masculine together. That's what God is. Wow. And God is not an old man sitting in heaven. We are all God. We are all Christ.
Thank you for mentioning that, guys, by the way.
And we are
Yes.
powerful beings.
Everybody
Everyone.
listening to this podcast right now.
Everyone.
How beautiful is that? And it's
And
always
because
with
we are
us.
disconnected from God, we are insecure, sad, and we want to make ourselves feel better about ourselves. So we try to put ourselves above other people. And we need to stop that.
Big time.
It's like we all need to really embrace unity
Yeah.
and healing.
Yeah. And why do we need to do it right now? Because you were back to the rapture,
Well, the world's not, the planet's unstable right now. The poles are shifting. We have all sorts of natural disasters. This planet will not survive.
It's because we're not taking care of it like we should. Is that what
It's because we are not taking care of it how we should.
and taking care of ourselves, right?
We don't even take care of ourselves on this planet. And we need to have this beautiful divine awakening on this planet, to being open to, hey, we've tried religion. We've tried all these things. It's not working. It's really
It's
not.
And honestly, I feel this so deep in my soul because my whole life just makes this so crystal clear
Okay.
for me. And Sarah, it's just like, how do what's the next step for us?
It's quite simple. I think everyone tries to make it extremely complicated with you need to go to Peru for the next 6 months or something, but it's really simple. So I
Right.
asked God, it's like I just, signed up to do obviously a mainstream show, which I can't talk much about due to
Very
my
cool.
contract. But it's like I asked God, I said, God, I made millions of dollars. I've spoken on, shows that reach millions of people. And I was like, what do I need to do to help out as many people as I can? Because when you're connected to God, you have this compassion and you can actually feel the planet and the world. You can feel the suffering. So I've had a lot of instances where I will feel the whole entire world, and I will feel the suffering on it.
Probably you especially, because I think females especially feel that, like with Reiki and all these.
Yeah. And I reached a state of like consciousness that I know I'm one with everything because I experienced that. So I asked God, I'm like, what do I have to do? Do I need to become like Elon Musk, like, a billionaire? And like, God's like, no, you don't. I'm like, to help, because there's so many homeless out there. There's so many children that need help. There's like, and this like breaks my heart because there's so many suffering. And I'm like, I remember just having this experience. God was like, you just got to keep working on your own frequency field, and that affects the entire planet. And then God was like, just tell them this truth. You can be a homeless man living under the bridge, and that you're homeless and you're living under that bridge because you don't have enough energy. So just tell them to visualize channeling in the rainbow light into their whole body over and over every day. And once that energy charges him, well, that's going to bring his frequency up. That's going to shift his reality, and he's going to be able to manifest where doors open, so he gets a house, so he gets money, so he gets what he needs. It'll shift his reality and his timelines. It's really simple. It's just about channeling in, closing your eyes, visualizing rainbow light pouring into you.
Guys, I hope you're getting this. Yeah. Because this is how
really simple.
It really is. It'll change your entire world.
It's just we have to fill ourselves with God's energy.
Just
and when we visualize it, we're giving our system the command to do so. And then when that happens, we start to charge with energy, and that lifts our frequency.
Amazing. So explain what you're talking about. You just said you visualize.
Close your eyes and you just visualize this rainbow light pouring into your entire body.
Yeah. And I'll often like send it to people I love.
We should, and that's the thing. So once we fill ourselves with enough light every single day, if you do this for 3 weeks, you will feel completely different. If you do it for 3 months, you will be a completely different person. That's what we need to do. Then once we do that, we're gonna wake up. When we start to wake up, we're gonna join together and channel that light into the planet. That's gonna transmute the pollution, which is a dense energy, in the oceans. That's gonna help heal the planet. This is what
energy.
God told me. Yes.
Wow. So you don't have to be a billionaire. You don't have to do all these things to go fight the system. Literally just the
system will fade away and be transformed into a system of compassion, love, empathy, and unity. As the frequency goes up, those systems will just become very primitive and not needed anymore. We are at this step of a leap of consciousness for humanity, a leap of evolution for humanity. Ascension.
It's evolution at the end stage.
Evolution at. We are ending a time of lack of knowledge of who we are in these physical realms.
We're ending that. We're at the end point of
right.
So got it. So we're remembering who we are.
Yes.
Amazing. We're
going through a remembrance, and in the end there is no fair. There is no true death. This body is just like putting on clothes and taking clothes off. There is no death. We are eternal beings that have lifetimes after lifetimes. And we've had many before, and will never ever not be, because we always will be.
Right.
Because we're God, and God is eternal.
That's so beautiful. There's no stop. So you were alluding to angels earlier. I want to go back to that. And demons. You believe that all actually exists?
Of course.
Talk about that.
Very much. There's definitely there's beings that have fallen from the light, so they feed on the sadness, the depression, the suffering of the people on this planet. And because they've fallen from the light, they feed on them.
Demons.
And they are scared of the light. And even those beings, though, in the end, everything is God, but parts of it have forgotten it's God. When those parts of it forgot it's God and lost its light, then they went down in frequency. So there was a creation a long time ago. I call it the first creation. this first creation was when the spirits decided to go into physical forms. And when they did, I always say this, if you just become a potter, you're an amateur potter, your first piece of pottery, it's not going to be very good, is it? And so that first creation, being the first creation, well, it wasn't, you might say it wasn't perfected. And these souls they got caught in the 3D realms, and they fell in frequency. And what happened is they lost their light, because what they were doing is they were not charging. See, they were focused so much on here and the outer, they were not bringing in the energy to replenish the soul light within them. So when that happened, that whole creation collapsed on itself.
Wow, that's what happened. They stopped recharging.
Right. So the light spirits and the different creation levels of creation, ETs, different levels of creation, decided to quarantine, to shut that creation into a vibrational prison place where everything stayed in there.
Is that where we are right now?
Until they could figure out how to deal with that.
Interesting. So you're talking about this.
That's how hell was created.
Whoa.
That
Where's
first
hell?
creation that collapsed.
What is hell?
When it was quarantined, when they shut everything in, everything mutated, and then that creation started seeping through until we get. And we're a nice amount of physical creations in.
Yeah.
Because the system is like it's like a great mathematician. It keeps create until it finds the answer. The what do you call it? I would say it like this, that it's a mathematician who has drawn a whole wall of the equation and keeps going back until they get the equation right. Well, the system keeps going until it gets the equation right. The equation is love, and aspects of love are unity, compassion, all those. So that first creation that fell, we have all these creations after, and that energy seep through, and that's where we get hell from. The myth of, the quote myth of hell, which is real.
It's real. Where is it?
So when we bring the light in here, we have to channel the light back to the first creation, which will also heal it and redeem it. And will affect the now and transmute it. It will transmute those, like in the dark crystal, will transmute those beings back into light beings that they originally were. Some of the highest light beings, because they were the first ones to descend into physical bodies.
Through love is the way. Yeah, I mean, this is so deep. Where I'm so like, just thinking like, where is hell? Like all these things. Where is it? What, like
hell exists in another frequency.
It's a frequency.
It's a frequency.
God, makes a ton of sense.
So there's some people walking around on this planet, and they're actually their souls are in hell, even though their bodies are here. It's a frequency. There's some people walking around, and our souls are in heaven, even though our bodies are here. Wow. And heaven's another frequency.
Totally.
And you have all these realms in between.
So you're saying you can go in between them, as like when you get to a certain state, like.
I think shamanic traditions talk about this a lot. But yes, I can go into different realms. I tune my frequency like tuning a radio station. So I tune my frequency and that's where I want to, according to where I want to go. And that's where I go.
Amazing. I had my buddy Neil on talk about all this past lives and, soul travel. It's really something else. But you're talking about it so beautifully.
It's pretty incredible, some of the things that you can do. But I think sometimes I won't say stuff like that I do on podcast or publicly, because it's too much for people to fathom right now.
Right. And I think my audience, they're big enough to handle it. But I know exactly what you mean. Like, how does someone take that and be like, okay, so what do I do with that information, right? Like you studied a lot of this stuff, like Kabbalah, all these strange things. They're like, don't even look at it until you're 40 years old because you're going to lose your mind. Like
I wouldn't necessarily say I studied. I have this thing of where this council, I call it the Council of the Ancient Light. I'm instructed that I really cannot read so much religious material. They don't want that because when you read something 3 times, it actually imprints in the subconscious mind and you believe it. Wow. So it's like,
in your subconscious mind.
There are things I have I'm limited to do of like reading things. Like I know about Kabbalah. I've read some stuff on it.
Yeah.
I understand it very deeply. I understand all religions very deeply because of the fact that I know quite a bit about them. Like I have a lot of friends and who extensively have told me, and also like
we talk about these things. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also like I just look at the traditions and I look at what they're doing and I'm like, this is really not
100%. It's not.
This is not of the light.
Not of the light.
This is
yeah.
of that.
And by the way, that's what I'm getting at too.
This
I'm
is
not
of the falling beings that have given this knowledge, acting like they're the light and they're not. And
so you're telling me the Council of Light you were getting at is telling you to not like meddle with this stuff too much because it will
it's
affect
it's an interesting experience because if you go back, and there is always some truth in religious books because that's the only way that people would actually buy into it.
That's how they rope you in.
It's how they rope you in.
But it's false, you're saying.
I'd say.
What do you think?
I'd say that there's truth and lies in it.
Okay.
It's like.
Because it works for some people, you know, like some of them might, but like you said one time, rely, ion is energy, religion, rely, energy.
And in jinn in Islamic, they're spirits who lost their light. So rely on jinn. Wow. They're taking your eye on your energy, your spirit, your soul light. They're harvesting it. So what was I going to say? Okay, to go back to, about reading stuff, even certain foods on this planet are poison, like sugar is considered a poison. And we could talk about the mark of the beast. And it says it'll be in the forehead. Well, you know that when you eat sugar, you know that it lights up the same part of the brain, the reptilian cortex, as drugs do. Cocaine, drugs, alcohol. It says they'll have the mark of the beast in the center of their forehead. That's where the reptilian cortex is.
That's what Jesus,
they're talking about this. They're saying that, and that's known to be the lowest consciousness. When you're in the reptilian cortex, you are very service to self. You are also very in an addictive personality. You're also...
It's like kids on Halloween. They're freaking out. They're demons.
They did a whole bunch of research on this. That people who were murderers, people who were rapists, people who were, were doing had done terrible stuff, were functioning from the reptilian cortex of the brain. And it says you will have be functioning from the mark of the beast. That means you're in beast consciousness. You are not in higher consciousness. The reason that Jesus has the halo is that in meditation, and my friend, he actually does this research in Sedona. He moved from California to Sedona at the time. He puts electrodes that can show most people are functioning from small parts of their brain, not their whole brain. And when you do these meditations, that's when you ascend into the higher part of the brain, which is higher consciousness. That's why Jesus has the halo, is saying to ascend out of the reptilian cortex into the higher parts of the brain, and then you will be able to channel God source energy straight down into you.
It's lighting up the whole brain.
And when it says that that the world, it says they have the mark of the beast, everyone right now. It says they worship the beast. You don't have to worship something. You don't have to pray to it or even acknowledge it. You have to be in the frequency, vibrational resonance. So basically, all these people out there are functioning from the reptilian cortex of the brain. So they're all functioning from the mark of the beast. They have the mark of the beast.
That's what it is. It's not the
they have the mark of the beast right now.
Yeah. Wow. Can people break free of this though?
Of course, because we're God. So
yeah,
yes.
Yeah. Wow, this is so deep. So that's amazing.
We are God, so of course, and that's the this knowledge. That's this incarnation was to come to this earth, and I was sent to tell people of their power, their divine power.
That's how it sure feels. Like you're here to save humanity.
I'm not here to save humanity.
Okay.
God is going to save humanity. God's
here
here
to
to remind them. I simply, happily and willingly bring that message from God because God loves humanity. So, because humanity is God.
Beautiful. Yeah. So you're just happily willing to share the message with all of us. That's the case. Wow. It's like an epic tale, like Lord of the Rings or something, right?
I always say it's a great play, a divine play.
Yeah, totally.
But the curtains are soon going to be closed on the lack of knowledge of who each one truly is on this planet. And it says that Christ will come as a thief in the night. It doesn't mean that Christ is a man coming from heaven. It means that the energy, which is Christ conscious, a higher frequency, will embody people around the planet, and they are not asleep physically, but they're in the dark night of the soul. They're asleep to who they are. And when that energy comes through them, they will remember who they are.
Wow.
So I know you asked me about the rapture.
Mm-hmm.
The rapture does not, there's a lot of codes in the Bible I've noticed. Why I don't believe in religion. Religion has taken parts of Egyptian mythology and different sacred ancient prophecies and mythologies and knowledge from around the world. And it's been watered down. So sometimes there are pieces and jewels of truth I find in religion. And the rapture is about those who are elevating their frequency. It doesn't mean, I think a lot of people take this stuff as, they're taking it as literally rather than symbolically. The rapture means that your energy will elevate so high. That's what that means. And then was those of us doing our sacred work, taking care of this physical body, clearing it, cleansing it, tuning it to be a vessel for God's source light the most. So I'd say so it can express it very well.
But it's not actually ascending and going to some other place.
No, it's not.
Got it. That's what you're saying. So the 144,000 they talk about and say ascend, you're just saying
those
they're living.
144,000 were, I'm one of them. Those are the ones of us who were sent to the planet to bring the divine message to it to help others wake up. And it's an act of love from God and from us. So that's
so
already
cool.
happening right now, though.
So we're in that last Revelation chapter, I read,
We are
or whatever
not,
you want to call it.
We are not in the chapter. Last chapter of Revelations is 22 of Revelations.
So what's this one at?
Now, let me tell you this. The book Revelations means to be revealed, and it says ion. Energetically, everything will be revealed. Revelations, ions. It has ions in it. Energy.
Yeah.
Ion means energy. And then it finishes with chapter 22. And if you turn the twos together, they form the shape of a heart.
Oh my goodness.
And that's the last chapter. And it says that everyone will be allowed back into the Garden of Eden. And the tree of life. The tree of life is the spine. The Garden of Eden is within us. And when we attain a higher frequency, we become Eden within. And that Eden within is joy, happiness, bliss, connection, love. And that reflects on the outside, creating Eden on the planet. So what is within, so is without.
Wow.
That's the last chapter, is us returning to the Garden of Eden. Because we will understand how energy works, so we'll bring that energy in. That will light up the Kundalini, which is the spine, that's the tree of life is in us.
That's right. And so that's that, you see that depiction. That's so beautiful. By the way, energy will be revealed. Revelation.
We will, through energy, it will be revealed to us who we truly are.
And then we could go back to the Garden of Eden.
Of course. Because we'll start to realize we need to channel light into ourselves and into the planet. And then there's such beautiful things that will happen for humanity.
Amazing. So I guess
In fact,
that's where I was
no longer call ourselves human, because we will have evolved beyond human.
What will we become?
God again.
Stay tuned. God, right. Yeah, back to source.
Mm-hmm.
So beautiful. Yeah, Sarah, so good. Are you allowed to talk about you're not allowed to talk about this new show and what you want to?
I'm not. I signed I signed an agreement, but it will be a show that, we will address all of these things and more in it. So it's going to be a show about a lot of beautiful divine knowledge that humanity needs to hear so that they can empower themselves and lift themselves out of the pits that they live in and follow the divine plan that God has for them. So that's what this show is going to be about. And I'm excited, but it's really interesting because I was told that this year I would do more mainstream work. So that's what manifested. And it's always really important to get into what I call a state of just, I think we were talking about this earlier. People do, they have coffee, caffeine, sugar, which also, ups your blood sugar and all sorts of things, weed, drugs. And what happens is this causes the nervous system to go really crazy. And it's everything is manifested in your life by the energy you're functioning from. So when your nervous system is everywhere because it's going up and down and everywhere because all this stuff you're putting in your body, you start to manifest craziness in your life, in your relationships, in making money, and everything. When you get to the state of where you can remove all those things and you just sit with yourself and you face all that dark stuff, your nervous system gets to the state of neutrality. And then guess what? When it's in that state, everything flows, and what's not for it flows away, but what's for us flows to us. It means all sorts of blessings.
Wow. When we remove all that, like you said,
it's
in our nervous system. It's a
spiritual journey to remove caffeine, to remove anything that's sugars, to, I did full carnivore diet. You have no sugar high, no nothing. It's really intense. No
it's
carbs,
hard.
nothing.
It's right.
I find it, I think when I first began, it was really hard, but then I was like, I like achieving things. So I'm like, I'm going to keep with this. I'm going to keep with this. And I was like, wait a minute, we're eating, if you want that piece of pie or that ice cream, jug of ice cream late at night, it's because you're trying to suppress some emotions. Actually, it's when you eat that stuff, it suppresses your emotions. And so we don't want to sit and feel ourselves, even being promiscuous. It's you're trying to feel another person because you don't want to feel yourself because you're unhappy with yourself. So when you sit with that stuff, you're like, okay, you start to actually, instead of like just disliking yourself, like, okay, I visualize embracing those parts of myself with love. Wow. Then it transmutes them. Then you start to become happy with yourself. The more you start to become happy with yourself, you don't need to reach and, what I call
chase.
You don't need to, and you don't need to chase any highs. You don't need to eat foods that are not good for your body and your health. You don't need to suppress your feelings via foods or drugs or, all these different substances that people vape in, like nicotine's such a big thing,
Right.
I mean, I know people who 24 hours can't stop vaping. It's like, whoa, because they're doing that. I call it escapism.
Big time.
You don't like how you feel, so you're trying to escape.
And that's what's going on. You're right. Sarah, thank you for saying this because a lot of people need to hear this, as do I. Like, it's amazing. Like, because when you actually sit with it, it is escapism. When you actually...
you got to go and you got to say, what am I escaping from? Why am I escaping?
Just recently, I kind of like I haven't been drinking. I've been like just smoking at night.
This is good. I'm proud of you.
Exactly because, exactly what you're talking about. It's not doing myself or humanity any good.
Right. You can't elevate you cannot elevate your frequency, but
all areas of my life,
most importantly, you won't be truly happy with yourself if you keep escaping yourself.
It's facts. And then how can you love other people?
It's important to give yourself presence. Give yourself your presence.
Big time.
You can't love other people if you don't love yourself.
This is so good.
I know this is an age-old saying, but it's actually the truth.
It's the truth.
It's the truth.
Guys,
and you can't find somebody. You might find somebody who would go to hell and back for you and loves you, but guess what? You're still going to feel terrible inside because you have not filled yourself with that love you yourself needs from yourself. No other person can fill that hole for us.
Big time.
We can
We could either
only-
learn that the hard way and like fight, like run into walls for a long time, or learn that today, everyone. Yeah.
No, face yourself, sit with yourself, love yours. Literally tell, people are like, oh, I'm fearful. I visualize that fear right there. Visualize giving it a hug and embracing it with love. I'm depressed. Visualize hugging it and say, listen, I love this part of myself that's depressed. Keep doing that. Keep channeling
Accept
rainbow light
that.
until it transmutes.
Accept it, love on it until
Yeah,
it transmutes.
because the more you resist it, the more you try to escape from it with substances, the more you resist it, the more you dislike it, the more it's going to grow. In Kabbalah, that's it. The
more it grows.
It says this, the more you resist it, different, even magical practices, the more you resist something, the more it energetically grows, the more you resist it, the more it grows. So embrace it with love.
Yes, all parts of you.
Yeah. All parts.
Sarah, you are so beautiful and wise. This has been really amazing today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, of course. I hope we could do it another time.
Of course.
Yeah, before we go, is there anything you want to share with the world? Anything at all?
Yeah, there's, the message right now for humanity is that they need to channel this rainbow light into themselves and wake up and channel it into the seas, the oceans, and every part of this planet, because this is how we're going to save our planet.
I'm here for it. Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll see you soon. Thanks, guys.
We're in the garden. It's existential.